Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of And I Should Care Because. I'm your host, Dr. Leah, and this is the podcast where we talk about all the changes that happen in higher education and to help you navigate those changes one news story at a time. As always, make sure you check the description box below for a link to the story that I'm riffing off of for the day and any other resources that might be pertinent to the topic at hand. So, with that said, let's get started. I read an article on Inside Higher Ed, and it was talking about how adjunct professors need support. Now, here's a little note: there are different levels of lecturers and professors and stuff. So, there's tenured faculty, and those are the people who are kind of on the track to eventually just be a full professor and be there forever, right? I mean, people move around and stuff, but it's a position that once you achieve tenure, you have to do a lot to get, booted out of your job. Then there's non-tenure track positions. And those positions could be lecturer positions where you're full-time, but you sign a contract every 12 months or something like that. And you can lose your job. So either poor performance, or maybe the college doesn't have a need for you anymore. Maybe they don't have as many students taking the courses that you teach, and they need to let go of a lecturer. They're going to let you go. And then there are adjuncts, okay? Adjuncts are like the gig workers of colleges and universities because it's like driving Uber or Lyft. You sign a contract every semester. It's no guarantee that you're going to get to teach at all. And if there isn't enough enrollment in the class that they want you to teach, you can just get dropped. So it's really a shaky situation to be in. And I've been there, man. I still teach adjuncts sometimes. And it is very much, I love teaching, but the support for adjuncts is abysmal. And more colleges are relying more heavily on adjuncts versus tenured professors and lecturers that are working full time and 100% committed to that job. Adjuncts have to piece things together sometimes to make a living. So you're working maybe at 2 or 3 universities teaching however many courses you have to get by. Now, why is that important for a student? Because you're being taught by these people. And so there needs to be transparency between the lecturer, instructor, adjunct, whatever you want to call them, and the students. Now, I myself am very real with my students. I tell them, look, they don't pay me enough for this. Okay? They don't pay me enough for me to do this part. I'll tell you a little bit, but they don't pay me enough to do that. And sometimes I'm usually joking, but the truth is they don't. The pay for an adjunct is abysmal. It's hard to make a living just as an adjunct. There's not a whole lot of resources. Oftentimes you have to share an office if you're lucky. There isn't a whole lot of space for you to just put your things down, to have a place to go to print something off or check your email, to have student hours. So there's really a lot of constraints, and adjuncts just kind of get pushed around. So imagine being in that space and then having to go teach. Doesn't excuse poor teaching. It doesn't excuse, bad attitude or anything like that. But it definitely helps to give some perspective. So sometimes when you're like, man, this person is just evil, they might be an adjunct, low key, and they might just be mad about life, because a lot of adjuncts are teaching not because they like teaching, but because it's what they can get. Kind of like the people who drive Uber or Lyft. They're not like, yeah, I love having people in my car. I love having pet hair in my car. I love having people body smell in my car. No, they don't. It's just what they could get. So they're quiet. They drive you where you need to go, might have a scowl on their face, and then when you get out, they roll down the windows, let some fresh air in, and they probably mutter about you as they drive away. Uber and Lyft take a big cut, and they're not happy about it. They're not happy about their working conditions, so it's hard to be pleasant. Same thing with adjuncts. It's hard to be pleasant and upbeat and helpful when you're not getting helped. So it's like if you do fast food and you go somewhere like McDonald's or wherever, and it's like, why are these people so mean? Are they trying to rush me out of here? Whatever. They ain't getting paid great. Life situations be lifing sometimes, and that affects your service. It's the same thing with adjuncts. Now, this article that I linked below, it talks about how there's one school that, has pretty much a place for adjuncts. So there's a physical space for them to go put their things, print stuff out. There's professional development, not just to become, a lecturer or a tenured professor, but a lot of people adjunct until they can get to where they really want to be career-wise, and it has nothing to do with academia. So there's career development for that. And kudos, congratulations, great. But that is not the prevailing trend at colleges and universities. They're looking for adjuncts every year, every semester, and oftentimes they'll just take up a big pool of them and say, okay, well, we have your information on file. If we have something, we'll call you. And then they don't call you. And it's really like when you're like, hey, man, I got to pay my mortgage. I got to pay for my phone. I got a car payment. And you're talking about what? My class got canceled because there weren't enough people. There were, 19 people and it needed to have 20. And now you're telling me that I got to replace, several $1,000s worth of income that I was relying on to make life work. Okay. So people are salty. Some of your professors are salty because they're not full professors. They're not tenured professors. They're not getting compensated for the work that they're doing. Well, let me backtrack. They're being compensated, but not compensated well. Okay? So it's kind of like when you get that Uber and you don't leave a tip, or it's your first time doing an Uber, or you get some kind of special and you don't have to pay. They're like, that's the feeling that some of your professors have. And they're still trying to teach and serve under those conditions. Again, not an excuse to be a horrible human being, but it is an opportunity to share with your students. And that's what I want to do here. So even if your professor doesn't say it, you might be like, I'm going to try to give them a little bit more grace. I'm going to try to approach them after class or just be like, hey, appreciate your time. I know you don't have a lot of it. I know your time is valuable. Can we maybe talk, using Zoom or Google Meet or whatever? Make it a little bit easier on them. Have some grace. They need to have grace for you too. And if you have grace for them first, then maybe they'll open up and be a little bit more vulnerable. Maybe they won't be so evil. Maybe they won't be so harsh. If you kind of say, hey, man, just trying to get by just like you. What can we do to meet in the middle? Transparency is key in the classroom. And if there is none, then nobody wins. So make sure that as a student, you are transparent about your situation. If you have something going on in life, as embarrassed as you may feel, you need to find someone that you trust to talk about it and advocate on your behalf. Even if you don't feel comfortable going directly to each and every one of your professors, you need to have an ally or a mentor that you can talk to that will do that on your behalf so that you can get the grace and the help that you need. And likewise, when your professor is just having an off day or life just starts lifing and it affects how they interact with the class, they too should just be transparent and say, look, man, this is one of those days where if I was a student, I wouldn't be here. or I would be all the way in the back. Or if it's a, remote class on Zoom or something, camera off if I even show up. We all have those days. Speaking personally, I have those days as a lecturer. I have those days when I need to do a workshop and I'm just not feeling it. But as soon as I release that and I let it out to say, all right, I'm here physically, mentally, I'm a little bit distant, but work with me. Do you have any idea how many of y'all are like, we got you. We got you. That feeling of, being open and gracious with one another is really helpful to move past how you feel and get to the service and the work. So don't forget that your instructors are people too, and they have bills, they have lives outside of the classroom. They're not robots that once you leave and the lights turn off, then they go choo 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 and they power down. Like, that's not it. They have lives. People be out here getting divorced. People be out here having kids. People out here, going through all of the things that we call life, and they all affect performance in the classroom, students and instructors alike. So just remember that. Be transparent. Have grace. You never know what that can do for your instructor, for your relationship with your instructor, and you can start to build your network. You may find an ally or a mentor just by being gracious and open. So don't forget that. Instructors are people too. And you, even as a student, have a lot of power to change your interactions with your instructors. So use that power, use that agency to your advantage. Do some good for yourself and for someone else. With that, we'll stop here because I could talk about this all day long. Let me know in the comments if this conversation was helpful. Let me know some of your experiences about teachers that were really transparent about their lives and what was going on and how that affected your work in the classroom, whether or not it motivated you to kind of be more transparent with them, or if you had people that were very much, closed off and inaccessible, and how that affected your work and whether or not you even enjoyed the class. So get in the comments and share with me about your experiences. I'd love to hear about them because I'm always looking to learn as a teacher. Teaching is a craft, and I feel that it's something that you can never just sit back and say, yep, I got it. I know how to do that. Check it off the list. So your comments and your stories will be really helpful for me as a teacher. If you enjoyed this content, please do consider liking and subscribing. And with that, make it a great day. And I'll see you back here soon. Bye.